What's going on, everyone? This is Kevin here, coming at you with TCL 20XE tips and tricks and hidden features. The purpose of this video is to help you make the most out of your device, so let's get started. Now with the TCL 20XE, we have a very large display here at 6.52 inches, which is definitely great for content consumption and good in general. However, one downside with it is that with such a large display, if you're holding the phone with one hand, it is very difficult, if not impossible, to reach certain portions of the display. Now thankfully, TCL has come up with a really good solution for this, and it's called One-Handed Mode. Now to access One-Handed Mode, what you're going to do is pull down the shade, and then you'll see right here we have some quick toggle icons. You're then going to swipe over, and you'll see this one called One-Handed Mode. So tap on that, and now One-Handed Mode is enabled. Now you can see that we have essentially a smaller version of the phone itself here in the corner, and you can do everything that you typically do on the device. It's just that everything is smaller. You can then move everything over to the other side of the display, which is especially convenient considering that I am right-handed, and you can see that, of course, I can reach all parts of the operating system here. Now, in addition to that, there are some further customizations. You can hold down on the corner and drag out to adjust the size. So if you do want the One-Handed Mode display to be a bit bigger, you can do that, and everything is still manageable with one hand, but at the same time, it's not quite as tiny as before. Now, if you want even more customizations, you can tap on this gear, and it's going to take you over to the settings for One-Handed Mode. And also, by the way, as you probably noticed, you can see up here, you can touch the outer area to quit. So that will bring you to the full screen here. But in the One-Handed Mode settings, we have a couple of interesting things. The first thing is there are some default sizes. So 3.5 is the original size when I did switch into One-Handed Mode, but there's also 4 and 4.5. And then of course, you can customize it as well. Now in addition to that, you can also access One-Handed Mode using a gesture. So we'll give that a try as well. So to access One-Handed Mode using this method, all you have to do is swipe across the navigation bar from the home button. And just like that, we're now in One-Handed Mode. So it doesn't matter, by the way, where you are throughout the operating system. You can easily access this. So it's certainly very convenient and definitely a feature that I'm a big fan of. And again, to get out of this, you just touch in the outer area. Now you might have noticed that with the TCL 20XE, whenever you tap on a button here, it makes a little sound. And it's not a really loud or annoying sound necessarily, but it does still make a sound whenever you tap on any of the buttons. And this is actually called touch sounds. And thankfully, you can disable touch sounds if you want to. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So pull down the shade, go to the gear, which takes you to the settings, go to search, and then type in touch, sound, and let that load. And you'll see right there, touch sounds. And then from here, all you have to do is disable touch sounds. And then now, anytime you press any of these buttons, it's not going to make any noises at all, which is great. And then of course, to revert this, you're going to go to the settings once again, go to search, type in touch sounds, there we go, and then re-enable it, and then now the touch sounds are back. Now the next thing I'm going to show you is how to take a screenshot with the TCL 20XE. Now there's actually two different methods. I'll show you the really awesome method first. So essentially what you're going to do is take 3 fingers and then swipe down. And you can see just like that, it took the screenshot. Then from here, we can share or delete. Let's do that one more time. So super convenient, definitely a nice way to take a screenshot very easily. Of course, in addition to that, there is the more traditional way to take a screenshot, and that is by holding the volume down and power buttons at the same time for about a second. And there we go, it took a screenshot once again. So those are 2 different methods to take a screenshot with this device. So again, swiping 3 fingers down takes a screenshot, but if you want to swipe 3 fingers up, that actually does a whole different feature. That's actually a quick access to split screen. So as you're probably aware, split screen is a really popular feature with Android devices, no matter what manufacturer it's from. However, I've never actually seen a way to access split screen in this way outside of TCL's family of devices. But essentially, to access split screen, all you're going to do is take 3 fingers, swipe up, and immediately you can see here, the screen has split. Then from here, we have the ability to choose apps for both the top and bottom halves. So up top here, I'm going to choose Chrome. So there we go, we have a web page here pulled up. And then for the bottom half of the display, I'm gonna go with calculator. So you can see here, we now have the calculator in the bottom, and then up top here, we do have the web page, which is really awesome. So you can scroll through either of the apps, but also if you wanna make the calculator smaller, for example, you can just drag down and it'll do that. Or if you drag up, it'll make the web page smaller and the calculator bigger. So that's really convenient there. There's also some other cool features as well. So if you wanna swap these around, tap on these arrows. There we go, now we have the calculator up top here and the web page on the bottom. You can also go to this view here to choose other apps if you want, or right here, we'll actually pop the app out so you can see that I can go throughout the operating system here and have this web page pulled up in this browser. You can then go to this toggle and resize it if you want to, which is pretty awesome as well. So again, remember, this is a very low-end Android device, and we're able to do this, which is really cool and super convenient. We can also go here then to fold it into the corner. So we now have the app just kind of hanging out there in the side. We can then easily access that once again. We can expand it as well. So essentially, we have a ton of different features like this built into the phone that aren't necessarily that obvious at first, but are super convenient. Now with the TCL 20 XE, we do have the 3-button traditional Android navigation enabled by default. And based on what I've seen on the comments in my various videos, it seems like most people actually do prefer this instead of gesture-based navigation. However, if you want to give gesture-based navigation a try, let me show you how to do that, and I'll also show you how to further customize these buttons. So what you're going to do is pull down the shade, go to the gear in the upper right corner to go to the settings. You're going to go to search, and then up here, we're going to type in nav, search that. You'll see right there, system navigation, and then you'll see right here, 3-button navigation, which is what's currently enabled. So we have some different options. The first option is that you can actually change the button layout. So if you prefer to have the back button on the other side and the recent apps button on the other side, you can do that too. So there we go, the buttons are now swapped around. So it's kind of based on personal preference for which way you want to go with that. We also have gesture navigation, of course. So if you go here, you'll now see that the bottom bar will disappear. There we go. And it's now gone. And now we have just a small line at the bottom of the screen here. Then from there, we can swipe up to go home. We can swipe partially up to go to our recent apps. And then we can also swipe from the side to go back. So this might not be for everybody, which I completely understand. However, I do recommend at least giving it a try so that you can see which of the two you prefer. Because who knows, maybe you think you really like the 3-button navigation, but then you give the gestures a try, and then that ends up being your favorite way to use the phone. So I would definitely give it a try. Now going here to more, we have one other option. It's kind of like a hybrid between the two, but we'll enable this. And essentially now we have 3 lines at the bottom. The middle one goes home. The one on the left goes to your recent apps. And then the one on the right goes back. So it's kind of like 3-button navigation, but you're still using gestures, which is pretty interesting. Now, if you're familiar with TCL as a company, they have a ton of experience when it comes to designing and manufacturing displays. In fact, before they got into smartphones, the company essentially was just a TV company. So they've expanded a lot since then, but at the same time, they have a ton of knowledge and expertise and experience when it comes to creating great looking displays. Now, as a result of that, they also give us some really cool customizations to kind of change things up when it comes to the way the display looks. So when you're in the settings, you'll see this option called Next Vision. Go there, and you'll see some things are enabled by default, and other things you have the ability to customize and change. So we have image enhancement and video and game enhancement enabled by default here. Those are definitely good things to have enabled. Of course, you can always give it a try, disable some, see how pictures and videos look, and then come back and adjust it accordingly. But going further down here, you can see we have this option for screen color, so color mode and temperature. And you can see by default, it's set to vivid. There's also natural. And if you want to, you can even go to advanced to adjust this even further. So you can change the saturation. You can also go here to make things really cold or make things extremely warm. So I definitely recommend trying out all these different options to see what you prefer. We also have reading mode. So if you like to read a lot of articles or ebooks on your device, this might be good for you. So if you enable reading mode, it kind of gives the display a bit of a physical book mimicking look to it. That rhymed. So that's pretty cool. I don't know of too many smartphones that offer that type of customization. I know Apple doesn't, that's for sure. But anyway, we can disable that. There's also eye comfort mode. I could definitely see this one coming in handy later on in the day. But essentially, if you enable that, it will filter out the blue light on the display. And then finally, we have sunlight display. So it will increase readability under sunlight. So you can either keep that enabled or disable it if you want to. So I definitely recommend trying out some of these different customizations to really see what you prefer. Now, in addition to that, right above that section is another section called display. So we'll go there. And many of these options you were probably already familiar with other devices, but there are a few things I do want to point out here. So the first thing is that adaptive brightness, you can enable that if you want. I believe it's already enabled by default. I just turned it off because I want to keep the brightness at 100% for the sake of making these videos. But if you enable adaptive brightness, essentially based on the light around you, the phone will decide what brightness to put the screen at. So if you go outside, it probably will put the phone at 100% brightness. But if you're inside, it might be at 50%. So it's pretty nice to have, that's for sure. It'll definitely give you a lot better battery life. Of course, ideally, we'd love to have our phones at 100% brightness at all times throughout the day, no matter where we are. But realistically, that's probably going to drain the battery pretty quickly. We also have dark mode, pretty self-explanatory. You can give that a try. I guess I'll turn that on right now. But essentially, it makes everything dark. So if you're in a movie theater, for example, I can see this coming in handy. Also, we have the ability to adjust when the phone goes to sleep. So by default, the display turns off after 30 seconds. Now for me personally, I prefer about 1 minute or 2 minutes. I just feel like 30 seconds is kind of quick, but also for the sake of making these videos, I did adjust it to 30 minutes because I don't want the screen turning off in the middle of recording a video. So anyway, I recommend trying out some different times here just to see which one best suits you. We can also adjust the font size. So if you want a larger font, then that's here for you. So not everybody has the same preference when it comes to font size. So if you do want it larger, this is where you do it. This is kind of interesting too. We have an LED indicator. So it is enabled by default, but essentially it'll light up if you have a low battery, or if you miss a call, for example, it will also light up, which is pretty cool. Definitely something that I wish we would see with more Android devices out there. Now heading back to the home screen here, there's some other customizations I want to show you. So if you hold down on the wallpaper, this will pop up, and then right there you'll see home settings. Go there, and there's several things here that I want to show you. So the first thing is that we have a home screen style selector. So by default, we have the Android app drawer with this device, which I'm personally a big fan of. That's probably one of my favorite parts of Android in general. I know that Apple has the app library on iOS, but I still feel like the implementation that we have with Android with the app drawer is a lot better, but you can switch it over to home screen only if you want to. So there will be no app drawer, and then all apps that you do install will end up on the home screen. You can also enable fill empty cells, so it'll automatically fill empty cells when apps are moved. And then this one is a pretty major one. This is the ability to disable the Google feed. So it's kind of based on personal preference, but as you probably know, if you swipe over, it does pull up this feed here with various news articles and things like that. So if you don't want this here, you can actually disable it. So we'll do the same thing here, go to the home settings, then we will disable the Google feed. And then now, if you try to go that direction, there's no feed. So in general, I prefer that. I don't really like being overloaded with information, especially if I'm trying to already focus on a certain task if I'm on my phone. But who knows? It's really up to personal preference. Now with the TCL 20XE, if you want a quick and easy way to access the camera, all you have to do is double press on the power button and it will pull up the camera app immediately. You can also do this if the display is not on. So you can see it pulled up the camera app right away. So that's definitely very convenient. I'm a big fan of that. Now the TCL 20XE has pretty good battery life, and it does have a really large battery at 5,000 milliamp hours. However, I'm going to show you some ways to get even more out of that battery. So what you're going to do is pull down the shade. You're going to go to the settings, then head down here to Smart Manager. So you're going to see that right there. And then we have some different options here, but we're going to go to battery. So we have two different options. We have normal saving mode and then super saving mode. So essentially, if you want to get more battery life out of your device, you can enable these various modes but keep in mind that it is going to disable various features on the phone. So for example, if we switch to normal saving mode, it's going to add quite a bit of battery life to the device. You can see here it's going to give us 14 hours and 25 minutes. So that's pretty impressive there. So if I enable that, you can see that it does switch things to dark mode, and then it also does cut out some background tasks. But for the most part, you can still use the phone as you normally would, which is pretty helpful. But at the same time, you're going to be getting a lot more battery life out of the phone. So I wouldn't do this every day, for example, but if you know that you have a long day ahead of you and you won't easily have an opportunity to recharge, then this certainly could come in handy. Now, if you want to take things a step further, there's actually super saving mode. So if you do this, let's enable that. This is literally all we get as far as the operating system goes. So there's no location access, there's none of that. All we have is the phone app, messaging, clock, and the settings right there. So really just the bare minimum, but if that's all you want from your phone and you want it to last for a very long time, then there you go. We've got super power saving mode. And then you can exit that by tapping on this button in the upper right corner. And there we go, we're back to normal. So certainly a nice way to make the most out of your battery on the device. And then finally, for the last one, I'm going to show you how to cut down on the animations on the device. So there's a lot of animations when you're doing different things on the phone, which is great and all, but I'm going to show you how to get rid of the animations to essentially speed things up here. So to do this, you're going to pull down the shade, go to the settings, then you're going to scroll down and you'll see, where is it? Accessibility. So once you're at accessibility, you're going to scroll down a little bit and you'll see right there, remove animations. So now with that enabled, we can navigate around the phone and there's no animations, or at least very little animations. So it's going to really make things run a lot faster here. So I personally like animations, but if you do want to get rid of them, that is how you do it. And then to re-enable it, go to the settings, go to accessibility once again, and then turn off remove animations, and the animations are now back on the device. But this concludes my video on tips and tricks and hidden features for the TCL 20 XE. I hope you enjoyed this video, but this is Kevin here, and I will see you in the next one.